to step down. I wonder if it really is just like the script or if he's realizing.
So Rachel Zegler on the first day of casting. And I just kept looking and looking and looking just as high as Rachel reached that first day.
And it was just like, holy crap. There were like the reverberations were felt far and wide around the world.
Baby, when I tell you Steven Spielberg saw the storm coming from a mile away, I am not exaggerating. Before a single frame of Snow White was even shot, Spielberg pulled Disney executives aside and straight up told them, guys, she's trouble. And no, this wasn't one of those cheeky gossip around the water cooler moments. This was serious. This was urgent, and Spielberg was not laughing. He had already witnessed Rachel Zegler's behind-the-scenes antics firsthand on West Side Story, and it wasn't pretty. According to insiders, Spielberg wasn't being petty. He was concerned, genuinely.
Disney. Bob Iger stepping down as CEO. This was something that, we all knew was coming at some point, but to do it just so abruptly on the day where Disney stock has just been hammered. I think they had to shut down Disneyland Shanghai as well. Maybe in it anymore. Like, he's taken things about as far as he can.
He had watched it unfold with his own eyes. The diva behavior, the entitlement, the way Rachel reportedly alienated co-stars and crew left and right. It wasn't just a bad day here and there. It was a whole vibe. And Spielberg? He didn't just sit quietly. Oh no, honey. He waved the biggest red flag he could find, trying to tell Disney straight up, you are walking into a disaster. But what did Disney do? They rolled their eyes. They brushed it off, too drunk on the idea of Rachel's rising star aura. They thought hiring a bold, brash, outspoken young woman would modernize Snow White for a new generation. Instead, they got a PR catastrophe, a fan revolt, and one of the biggest, most expensive flops in Disney history.
Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing, before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
And let's be clear, this wasn't just a mild disappointment. It was an unmitigated collapse. The movie, which had its budget balloon somewhere between $240.00 to $270 million.00, barely clawed back $194,600,000.00 worldwide. They didn't even come close to breaking even, not even on paper. And now, as the smoke clears, everyone, fans, critics, industry insiders, are asking the big, obvious question. Why didn't Disney listen to Spielberg?
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Remaking the movie, they just got rid of the dwarves. But they have one token dwarf amongst these magical creatures. You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it, the disability, like we're a disability group, you just erase that whole.
Here's the cold hard truth. Spielberg didn't just think Rachel would be a problem, he lived it. While filming West Side Story, Spielberg reportedly endured a chaotic and tense set environment. Crew members whispered about Rachel being difficult, unpredictable, and at times, downright rude. She clashed with creative direction, she pushed back on authority, she dismissed advice. Spielberg tried to manage it, to contain the storm. But some things you just can't hide.
Rachel Zegler, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infatata is the only global solution.
It's awful, generic. Never mind that the lyrics make no sense at all. All you have to do to make your dream come true is let it echo. Is it like on a metaphor?
So when Spielberg caught wind that Disney wanted Rachel Zegler to headline Snow White, he didn't hesitate. He raised the alarm. Again. Loud and clear. Sources say he told Disney leadership directly, this isn't about talent, it's about everything else that comes with her. Drama, headlines, backlash just waiting to explode. But Disney, still drunk on Rachel's fleeting Instagram fame, still blinded by her social media buzz, still thinking they knew better. They bet against Spielberg, and they lost.
And you know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's gonna lose money on this movie, and I believe it only made less than $1 million.
Controversy in Snow White. The dwarves have been eliminated in the live action.
Yeah.
Now it's Snow White and the 7 magical beings.
Wait, it's 7 and the magical beings.
Yeah,
They won't even
7
say
magical
and the 7
beings.
dwarves.
No, because they're not dwarves. For right now, that's the only jobs that are there.
And baby, if you thought that was the end of it, buckle up because we're just getting started. The second Rachel Zegler opened her mouth during press interviews, it was over. Before the trailer even dropped, she started dragging the original Snow White like it was trash.
Hardcore. They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
Oh my God. She came out and she said, I apologize. Like, I went too far. But it wasn't.
In interview after interview, Rachel called the 1937 Snow White creepy, said the prince was basically a stalker, and laughed at the entire concept of love stories. He said her Snow White would be all about female empowerment, not some old-fashioned fairy tale. And whether you agree with that take or not, one thing's for sure, Disney fans did not sign up for that.
Now, I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
Last week was a very big week, objectively a huge week. We had quite a few announcements. As first live-action film, which is Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that's me, I'm Snow White, which is so fun.
The fans wanted magic, romance, they wanted nostalgia, not a lecture. Instead, they got Rachel Zegler rolling her eyes at the very fairy tale they cherished. The backlash was instant and brutal. Comment sections exploded with angry fans calling for boycotts. YouTube and TikTok caught fire with creators ripping Rachel to shreds over her disrespect. In one move, Disney managed to alienate the very people who had been their most loyal audience.
I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension. Racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just awful.
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime. And let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
And at the very center of this swirling tornado of chaos, Rachel Zegler herself. By the time the movie hit theaters, the damage was irreversible. Opening weekend, humiliating $43 million 0 cents domestically and $87 million 0 cents worldwide. Disney needed a miracle to save it. Instead, they got a disaster.
Doing catastrophically. They spent $300 million and it currently has a 2.2 out of 10 rating on IMDb.
The movie has a major identity crisis.
I wanted my money back. I was very disappointed.
And when you look at the cold, hard numbers, you see it. Nowhere near enough to even scratch the surface of that bloated $270 million 0 cents budget. Critics torched the movie for its joyless tone, awkward storytelling, and preachy messaging. Audiences felt mocked. They didn't feel seen, they didn't feel loved. They felt lectured.
The new Disney boss babe, who is Rachel Zegler, the inverse of
pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
And let's talk about Rachel's performance because, whew, it did not help. Critics called her acting wooden, disconnected, and emotionally flat. Instead of becoming Disney's next princess sweetheart, she became the poster child for what not to do in a live-action remake. Instead of winning hearts, she pushed them away. Instead of creating magic, she created a cautionary tale.
So apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White, women can't even want to be in love anymore.
Broke out with this news, and I'm very, very, very excited and looking forward.
And trust me, when the dust finally settled, all fingers pointed at one name, Rachel Zegler. When the smoke cleared and those brutal numbers were out there for everyone to see, honey, there was no sugarcoating it anymore. Disney was embarrassed, fans were furious, and Rachel, she was public enemy number one. And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, bam! Enter Jonah Platt, son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, ready to spill every ounce of tea Disney probably wished would stay buried. Jonah didn't just throw shade. Oh no, baby. He launched a full-on missile at Rachel Zegler. He accused her directly, saying her endless political rants, her arrogant interviews, and her holier-than-thou attitude were a major reason the movie tanked. And you know what? A lot of people agreed with him, because by the time the film even dropped, Rachel had already managed to alienate half the fan base. She wasn't promoting Snow White, she was promoting controversy. Behind closed doors, Disney executives were losing their minds. Sources say the internal meetings were absolute chaos, finger pointing everywhere. Leaders were screaming, "How did we not see this coming?" Meanwhile, Spielberg's early warning was ringing in their ears, louder than ever. But by now, way too late. The damage was permanent. Snow White wasn't just a box office disappointment. It was a brand-destroying catastrophe. And Rachel, her name was plastered across every headline, for all the wrong reasons. But trust me, the nightmare didn't stop there. The fallout from Rachel's disaster bled into everything Disney touched after that. They quietly started pulling the plug on several other live-action remakes that were lined up behind Snow White. Some projects straight up shelved indefinitely. Why? Because nobody, and I mean nobody, wanted to risk another Rachel Zegler situation. One insider described the mood inside Disney like this: full-blown panic mode. Execs were scrambling to fix it, to spin it, to somehow stop the bleeding. And the first step in their damage control playbook? Cut ties with Rachel Zegler. Permanently. Those quiet phone calls that might have gone out for future casting discussions? Canceled. Any rumors about Rachel being considered for other Disney franchises? Dead in the water. Hollywood Honey is risk-averse by nature. And after this mess, Rachel's name was now stamped with one big red word. Because here's the ugly truth. In Hollywood, you can survive a flop, but you can't survive being the reason for it. Rachel didn't just star in a bad movie, she became the scandal. Her words, her attitude, her endless lectures, they were the smoking gun, the proof that studios couldn't ignore. And she didn't just alienate fans, she alienated the very machine that makes or breaks stars in Hollywood. The executives, the producers, the investors, the PR army, all of them now saw her as the liability they couldn't afford. Meanwhile, Disney, a company known for locking down their image like Fort Knox, spent weeks being dragged through the mud, called out in every headline, trolled in every comment section. Because of Rachel. Because they ignored Spielberg. At the end of the day, Rachel Zegler wasn't just an actress who starred in a flop. She became the cautionary tale, the textbook case of how one bad casting decision can wreck an entire franchise. And baby, the message couldn't have been clearer. In Hollywood, controversy isn't cute. It's expensive. And you'd think after all of this, after setting fire to her Disney dream, Rachel would take a step back, reflect, maybe even humble herself a little bit, right? WRON. Instead, Rachel doubled down like only Rachel can. She barely let the ashes settle before announcing her next big comeback. She was heading to London's prestigious West End, starring in Evita. It was supposed to be the moment she turned it all around. The big I'm back moment, the redemption arc, the comeback of the century. Only it wasn't. Reports started leaking almost immediately after previews began. Ticket sales, weak. Audience turnout, depressingly low. Theaters half empty, even for opening nights. Some insiders even said management started quietly discounting tickets just to save face. And online? Whew, baby, it was brutal. Social media was on fire again, except this time, nobody was mad. They were just laughing. People started calling her the Snow White Flop Girl. Once you get a nickname like that, you are not shaking it off. And honestly, it wasn't just one bad movie that ruined her. It was everything. The baggage, the arrogance, the endless controversies, the way she turned fans, studios, and even casual moviegoers against her. Suddenly, studios were quietly backing away. That list of future roles Rachel thought she had, gone. One insider said it best, she's radioactive. No investor, no producer, no PR team wanted to bet on a walking PR disaster. Even the easy wins, guest spots, commercials, voice acting gigs, slipping right through her fingers. Because Hollywood may forgive a flop, but it never forgets when you become the problem. And at this point, nobody wanted their brand tied to Rachel Zegler. Nobody. And honestly, the saddest part? It didn't have to be this way. Rachel had everything. Spielberg backing her, Disney giving her a crown jewel project, a seat at the table with the Hollywood elite. All she had to do was be professional. Be gracious, respect the game. But instead, she chose chaos. She chose to lecture fans instead of loving them. She chose to burn bridges before they were even fully built. And now, she's a walking, talking warning sign. In meeting rooms all across Hollywood, when someone suggests a risky, outspoken young star, or someone always says, "Remember what happened with Rachel Zegler?" It's a whole thing now, a whole lesson. Because when your name becomes synonymous with words like flop and controversy, it sticks. And no West End production, no comeback moment is enough to erase it overnight. Rachel thought Evita would be her redemption story, but instead, it just confirmed what everyone already knew. And meanwhile, way back in the quiet corners of Hollywood, you know who's sitting there, shaking his head? Steven Spielberg. Because he warned them. He saw it coming. He tried to stop it, and they didn't listen. And now, Disney, the same studio that built an empire on happily ever afters, learned the hard way. Sometimes the biggest disasters aren't accidents. They're warnings ignored.